Hi, good evening, everyone, and Jai Hind. Hope you all are safe at home. The COVID second wave is not yet over. The pandemic is on. Please do take adequate precautions and don't venture out unless or until it is needed. Always wear a mask when you step out. Okay, a lot of people had discussed with me and another asked me a lot of questions on this big, great Chinese myth. Is it China going to rule the world? China is going to be the number one superpower. Will China take over all the small countries? Will China invade India? Will it be a repeat of 1962? And so on and so. So let's try to demystify this entire thing. I'm trying to support this with some few facts from genuine articles and global media so that we kind of see it with an objective angle rather than being an opinion. So, what makes China great? So, let's see. So, few facts. We all know certain of these facts. So, just to rehash quickly, China is the world's largest manufacturing country. To give a comparison, China manufactures close down to 30% of whatever gets manufactured in the world, compared to India, which is at 3%. So Chinese manufacturing industry is 10 times the size of India and almost double the size of United States of America. What else makes the dragon great? So if you see the manufacturing which we spoke about, now coming on to the investments, China's investment is close down to, as on today, it's roughly 1400 billion USD across the globe, which includes America as well, Asia, Europe. Possibly they have invested in every country in the world. So China has a surplus amount of money. They have a surplus amount of treasury, or you can call it as a nation's wealth. And they hold more USD than America itself. That's also another fact. And of course, the world's second largest military, close to second largest military. They're very powerful, and they've been investing heavily on their navy. So these things, let me put it on silent. Yeah. So these things makes China really great. Possibly down in 10 years, they will have the world's largest navy as well. They are now the Asia's bankers, and they have been bankers for most of the third world countries. And also, if you see India's neighbors, clearly they have bought over many countries like Pakistan. They've been investing heavily in Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Maldives, Nepal, Bhutan. So they're trying to garland us in terms of bringing those countries under their control. And they have a sizable investment in terms of the African nations as well. And they have a huge amount of investments in Europe as well. So these are some great facts which makes China a mightiest nation and which makes us concerned about our own future and the world's future. How will China evolve? So all said and done, these are the good things about China. So far it has been. So they opened up the market in the early 70s, and today they are the manufacturing hub of the world, which accounts to almost 30% of the world's manufacturing, as we said earlier. Now, from here, for next 30 years or so, what is China's future? What are the good things with them, and what are the concerns which China has as a aspiring number one superpower in the world, and obviously the number one power in Asia? They have surplus money, that's for sure. They are manufacturing, even if it grows by less than 3%, it's still all good for them. That's going to keep their GDP going up, because we cannot compare with India because they are at least five times bigger than us. So India growing at 10% and China growing at 5%, still China leads us because of the sheer size of the base of the GDP which we are talking about. These things makes China too powerful. No other nation in Asia can bully them or even take on China except India, which had shown a strong deterrence militarily, economically. Where last year at the same time when the Galwan clashes happened, China has to withdraw and China has to be put in place, which India rightly did. And India is one of the country which has the least Chinese investments. So that's also India still being a fastest growing economy, the fifth largest economy in the world. But we consciously had, we can't say that we don't have Chinese investments, but it is very limited compared to our peer nations across the globe. So China is now slowly moving from the low scale manufacturing. Like when I call low scale, your toys, right from your tissue papers, all the low value items. Now they're slowly moving into tech, which US has a clear advantage. So they want to take the tech advantage of the globe. So they're investing heavily in 5G, Huawei, their Chinese-based company. So they want to roll out 5G and they want to compete with America in terms of capturing the 5G market and in future the 6G as well. The another thing they're looking at for the future is the data, the big data which is available. They have a sizable human capital who are much qualified than India or any other country, who are smart and who can take on this game of data. They have kind of insulated themselves from all the American tech companies, be it Google, be it Twitter, Facebook, any social media platform. They have their replica of their own. They have the Chinese version, so they are kind of immune from those things. So these are the rosiest things of China. Now coming to what is their pitfall, where they can face the Waterloo, the battle which they can lose. The first and the foremost thing is their population. China is a highly populated country in the world, and the recent census, which they take every 10 years, the 2020 census, was not showing a great picture to China. What it means is, to put it simply, 2010 versus 2020 and the projected growth rate in 2030, the Chinese working population versus a non-working population. When I say working versus non-working, above 18 years and less than 60 years. So kids can't work. Obviously, they have to get educated, and people above 60, they have retired. They cannot be in active work. So this is shrinking, which is a very, very serious concern for China. So down 10 years, they will have 50% population who are working, another 50% population who are not working. So what this does to a country? Definitely, it puts a heavy load on the social security cost, because throughout your life you have worked, and after retirement you're supposed to get your PF, gratuity, your pension, your free medical benefits, certain amount of housing benefits. So you need to take care of your senior citizens who have already done their job for the country, and you also need to take care of the kids who are going to run this country in terms of their education, nutrition, so and so. So effectively, the workforce is going to come down. Why this is a concern is, even though they are attempting to move into high value items rather than the low ticket items in terms of manufacturing, when your workforce comes up, when your workforce, available workforce comes down, your cost of labor goes up. When your cost of labor goes up, your cost of manufacturing goes up. So you become less competitive in the world market. Chinese per se were giving anything for cheap. That's a USP of China. Now that's not going to be the factor. Maybe down 5 years to 10 years, Chinese goods are going to get costly because of the sheer labor cost going up. That's one. Second, government has to shell a huge amount of money bill in terms of pension, in terms of social security of their senior citizens and also the younger ones. So what has China done? So China is kind of giving a knee-jerk reaction, and they had an emergency meeting of the CCS, the highest council or political council of China, headed by Xi Jinping. So what they said is, that suddenly they announced a three-child policy. They want to encourage a three-child policy, but the fact remains same. The government has announced the three-child policy, but will the millennial generation would want to have three child? The big answer is no, because it's already screwed up. Close to 3 crore men, the male-female ratio is screwed up. Most to screwed up in the sense like the male unmarried male population in China is, as on today, is 3 crore. The numbers may look small, less than maybe less than 2.2% compared to a population of 140 plus crore. But still, it's a concern. It is going to grow. Why the millennial generation wouldn't want to have three kids? Because they have a huge financial stress in terms of bringing up one child as on today, and the generation has changed. They think that it's a financial burden, more a moral or an emotional commitment. It's a financial burden for them because the cost of Chinese real estate in the cities is very high, in the mainland is very high. The cost of living as such in these towns are very high. The social security is comparatively less, so they don't want to have three kids, even though they want to have. If the government has allowed them to have kids, still they don't want to. So government is trying to spend a huge reserve of money in kind of incentivizing those three-child policy, but it's not going to work the way the China wants because it's a knee-jerk reaction. It will take almost 3 to 4 decades to give the desired benefit which they are anticipating, but still the studies across the globe says it is not going to happen, which means on down 10 years almost 40 to 50 crore of Chinese population would be above the age of 60. And the other thing which is bothering them, which is like bloody blessing in disguise, is your age expectancy has gone up because of the kind of growth they had, the kind of better benefits, better infra, better medical care, healthcare they have. Their life expectancy as of now is 80. So 60 to 80, a 40 crore plus population, which is almost 1.5x the size of Brazil, you need to provide them social security. So that's a big challenge which we discuss. I'm trying to kind of dissect it and show what is happening. The second thing is you got the world's second largest standing army. Now you need to continuously recruit soldiers. The soldiers join at the age group of maybe 16 to 17, and possibly they get out of their active service by the age of 30 to 35 max. I'm saying the fighting population. So in this case, today they are finding it difficult to recruit soldiers. As on today, PLA, the infantry, the fighting troops, the combat troops, 80% of their combat troops have their recruits, the soldiers, who are basically one child for their family. So this is what precisely happened last year. They openly didn't admit the number of casualties they had in Galwan. India, the same day, same night, we declared to the world that we lost so much of soldiers and officers, but China never did. China did it after 6 months, and that created a lot of furore in a controlled. There's no democracy as such in a controlled environment like China, which has its own social media platform, which has got any level of surveillance and censorship. Still, there is a huge amount of this thing because of this one child. Parents are emotional about their single child. So this is another big problem for China, recruiting soldiers for PLA. So that's the precise reason China is slowly moving into, or they want to move into a non-contact warfare where there's no human-to-human contact. You use kind of missiles and rockets and the ICBMs and the aircrafts to take care of your enemy. So that's another problem which China has. The third biggest bombshell which China is currently sitting in is a huge amount of unsold real estate. They have built large number of cities. Nobody is going to those cities to migrate because the industry is all concentrated in few provinces. So there's no takers for those apartments. So there are a lot of ghost cities in China. So this real estate, we saw it in 2009 when the real estate burst happened in US when Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. US headed into recession quickly with the entire world and took a lot of time for the world countries to recover. Even today, even till date, we are not recovered to those levels of 2009 or 10. So China is sitting on that. And now another thing which was their advantage is turning to be a disadvantage now. Close to 1,400 billion US dollars of investments has gone into infrastructure, especially the roads and the Belt and Road Initiative, which they are building across the globe. Now, how much time it's going to take a return when they will break even? It's going to take a lot of time to give that amount of return which China is expecting. A lot of countries have already gone bankrupt, which means they can never even pay back the loans, the interest for the loan. Forget about the loan, the interest for the loan which they have taken. So either they have taken those countries' land on lease. So somewhere they have to make all these investments work. When the entire globe is slowed down because of the current COVID pandemic, which in turn has a conspiracy theory was created by China. So that's another issue which they have. Whatever the money they have invested, it's not going to either come back immediately or it's not going to pay back those returns which they expect, which means the money is not liquid. Now, other thing which China is facing is the demon's image which they have created. So Xi Jinping had made the PLA or made the China look more dangerous, more assertive, more aggressive, and kind of want to have that medieval kingdom mindset, which has taken a severe dent on the Chinese image as such across the world. Now, this image makeover is not going to happen overnight. Like US had done a survey which said almost 70 to 80% of Americans feel China is responsible for the pandemic and they kind of hate China. So this is the similar sentiments across the globe. Even in Chinese dominated countries like Pakistan, they still have this anti-China sentiment strong, very, very strong. Now, these will eventually get into people's mind in terms of social media, networking, formal, informal sharing. When I say formal, it may be in textbooks of schools. So this is going to take a major dent. So when you have money, when you want to come and invest in these countries in future, you will be always seen with the eye of suspicion. That's one. Now, the fifth one is the China's diplomatic relationship with the world, other countries. They have the bad habit of bullying almost all the countries. The way they called Canada as a dog, and Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau as I don't want to use those words, which a responsible country, the world's aspiring superpower, should not be using it. They're known for their wolf warrior mentality. They are known for their wolf warrior diplomacy. And the Chinese negotiations are perceived as skewed and one-sided. It doesn't have anything left for the other side. Chinese minds, whoever is involved in this kind of negotiations with other countries and companies, they're seen as more autocratic and more shrewd. So would people or the population or any other country would want to work under a Chinese company or a Chinese boss vis-a-vis an American company or an Indian company? The answer is no. So these things have taken a severe dent. And the major one as on today, which may mellow down over a period of 2 decades or so, is the pandemic. Who is responsible for this pandemic? It has clearly come out. It has come from Wuhan, Chinese city. China has kind of stonewalled all the information. There is no information available. So people have started demanding. The G7 and the G7 Plus, which includes India as well, had started demanding those information, those fair trial and stuff, which China is kind of bullying it again. So will this have economic sanctions on China? As I said, 30% of the world's manufacturing happens in China. So it is highly impossible to decouple the supply chain. When I say supply chain, the manufacturing activities of all the, at least even if I say 5% from now for next 5 years, it's going to be really difficult. So these economies are interrelated and they're mostly dependent on China. Like Indian pharma industry is dependent on China. We may be the world's largest pharma manufacturer, but the APIs, the raw materials come from China. So that's how the world supply chain is linked with China. So it's not that easy. But for sure, it's going to hurt their image as early, and it's going to hurt their business interest. And the business interest in terms of corporatizing or making Chinese companies as an MNC. We have clearly seen this in terms of Huawei, which is the largest service provider in terms of 5G technology, which is cheaper as well. Many of the countries, including Europe, India, have banned Huawei straight away. And then comes the tech giants of China, Alibaba and their offshoots. they are going to find it difficult to roll out their new businesses across the globe. There are a lot of investments in electric vehicle mobility, in terms of telecommunication, in terms of artificial intelligence. So, and in terms of even the data space, the servers, nobody would want to go for Chinese servers these days because of the sheer distress and the mistrust which China had created across the globe. That includes all the Chinese apps. One of the world's successful app, TikTok, was abruptly banned by India. They lost billions of dollars in terms of their valuation. If other countries start doing it, then the tech giants also going to face a big time, kind of debacle in terms of China. So these tech firms are heavily funded by the Chinese banks, which will in turn sitting on the huge capital of money, which will in turn face the heat if the Chinese companies collapses. And then last but not the least, which the major thing which China is going to face or in the coming years, apart from all this, is what is called the IPP. The Chinese are known to copy or replicate things. China is possibly the highest country across the globe which is facing the infringement, patent right violation, or trademark violation, or trademark infringement. So these type of things are high, which is not letting the other countries like majorly US and the European countries who are earlier giving the tech support in terms of technology transfer and stuff, which is not going to happen in future. And whoever is a Chinese millionaire who had grown up big, or either or mishandled or kind of muted by the government. The popular survey, it was not done directly, it was done outside China, in rest of Europe and US. It says that almost 80% of the Chinese millionaires and the billionaires want to move out of China. And almost 60% of educated Chinese also want to move out of China. So that's a strong brain drain which China is going to face. Or unlike US, which has a method of, or even Europe, which has got the method of inversing this population setback in terms of aging population by means of immigration. They attract the best talents from the world and they kind of migrate them and they become US citizens or European citizens. Now that is not going to happen in China because China believes in zero immigration policy. And I don't think so. Anybody who's from a poor country would like to migrate to China, but at least people who are in India or in a better off country would not want to migrate to China because of the kind of laws and the culture they have. So it's a very, very tough situation in times ahead for China. It is surely not by the size of military you have or the kind of amount of missiles you have you're going to lead or become a superpower. So this is what differentiates China from India or US. Like India is a multicultural, plural country, whereas China is one nation, homogeneous. There's no worship, there's no God, there's no religion. All you can worship is about communist principles and this thing. So that is quite different from these two greatest democracies of the world, which is one is India and one is America. So economically, yes, they are strong, and as the detailed discussions we had, it looks all good in terms of their military and the kind of necklace which are trying to put on India, the BRI, the CPEC and everything. But they are going to collapse, or they are facing a collapse down 2 decades by the sheer size of China and by the sheer political system they have and by the sheer things which looks positive today is going to turn against them. So we will have these sessions more. Please do pass on your comments. Let's be quite decent in whatever interaction we have. I may be wrong. You may educate me. I can learn from you. It's mutual. So please put down your comments. And if you find this video to be useful, please share it with your friends and by video, by means of WhatsApp or whichever medium you use. And do subscribe to my channel. So we'll keep discussing this geopolitical affairs very often from now. Thank you, Namaste and Jai Hind.